Something strange happened in Berlin yesterday. After her explosive outburst about the match suspension, Aryna Sabalenka did something completely out of character. She gave Rebeka Masarova what seemed like a forced thumbs up while leaving the court. We tried searching the internet for other instances of Sabalenka giving thumbs ups during matches, and we found maybe one among thousands of images, and we can't even tell if it's real. That's how rare this behavior is for her. Then today, June 19, 2025, she struggled for over 2 hours to beat a player ranked 112th. The question isn't whether Sabalenka won, it's whether trying to be nice is destroying the very aggression that made her world number one.
What we're witnessing could be a champion's identity crisis. Sabalenka built her success on controlled aggression and emotional authenticity. When external pressure forces athletes to suppress their natural competitive instincts, it often creates internal conflict that manifests in performance anxiety and technical breakdowns.
I've seen this before champions who try to change their personality after public criticism. Sabalenka's power isn't just physical, it's psychological. Her intimidation factor, her emotional intensity, her unwillingness to back down, these aren't character flaws, they're competitive advantages. When you start policing that, you risk losing what made you great.
Today we're examining whether Sabalenka's recent apologies and attempts at damage control are creating a psychological split that's undermining her tennis. From her body language in Berlin to her performance against Masarova, the evidence suggests a champion struggling between who she naturally is and who she thinks she should be. To understand what's happening to Sabalenka now, we need to understand what made her successful. She herself has been remarkably honest about her psychology. When I'm on court, I'm a completely different person. I am very aggressive. This isn't an act, it's her competitive identity.
Calmness does not show mental toughness. For me personally, for many years I was trying to figure my emotions. Everyone would tell me I have to keep it inside, I have to stay calm, I have to be like that player, like a no emotions player, but this is not who I am.
This quote reveals everything about Sabalenka's psychology. She's explicitly rejected the calm champion model because it doesn't work for her. Her emotional expression isn't a weakness to overcome, it's her strength to harness. When she tries to suppress this natural state, she's fighting against her own nervous system.
Sabalenka's breakthrough came in 2023 when she stopped working with a sports psychologist and took control of her mental game. Her reasoning was profound. I realized that nobody other than me will help. Every time hoping that someone will fix my problem, it's not fixing my problem.
That decision to fire her sports psychologist wasn't just about mental toughness, it was about authenticity. Sabalenka realized she was trying to become someone else's version of a champion instead of being her own version. The moment she embraced her natural aggression and stopped apologizing for her intensity, she started winning Grand Slams.
Now fast forward to Berlin 2025. After her French Open controversy with Coco Gauff, Sabalenka has been in damage control mode. She apologized to Gauff, admitted her comments were unprofessional, and seemed to be trying to project a more palatable image. But champions aren't built for public relations.
What we saw in Berlin was a fascinating psychological conflict. Sabalenka's initial reaction to the match suspension was pure, authentic anger, exactly what you'd expect from a competitor who hates being told what to do. But then she caught herself, tried to be nice, and gave Masarova a thumbs up. That's not natural behavior for her.
Body language told the story. Sabalenka was waving her hands in frustration, clearly furious about the suspension. But then, almost like she remembered she was supposed to be on her best behavior, she shifted to this forced pleasantness. That internal conflict is psychologically exhausting.
When athletes start self-censoring their natural reactions, it creates cognitive load. Mental energy that should be focused on tennis is instead spent monitoring and controlling behavior. That's exactly what we saw in her match against Masarova. The tennis became secondary to the performance of being acceptable.
Numbers from the Masarova match tell the story of a champion struggling with internal conflict. Against a player ranked 112th, Sabalenka needed over 2 hours across 2 days, squandered multiple match points, and required a tiebreak to win the second set. This wasn't rust, this was psychological interference.
Performance anxiety often manifests as tentative play, especially in situations that should be routine. When Sabalenka couldn't close out those match points against Masarova, it suggested someone playing not to lose rather than playing to dominate. That's the opposite of her natural aggressive instinct.
Sabalenka's own words reveal how crucial emotional authenticity is to her game. And we spoke with the team, and that's why sometimes you see those funny videos of me yelling at my team. Whenever I try to keep things inside, it negatively affects my clarity of thought.
That's the key insight. Emotional suppression literally clouds her thinking. Sabalenka's brain is wired to process stress through external expression. When she bottles that up to appear more likable, she's essentially fighting her own operating system. It's like trying to run software on incompatible hardware.
Timing is crucial here. Sabalenka's struggles against Masarova came immediately after her most high-profile attempt to be nice in Berlin. The correlation between her behavioral self-censorship and her performance drop isn't coincidental, it's psychological cause and effect.
What makes this particularly dangerous for Sabalenka is that her aggressive personality isn't just about emotional release, it's about competitive positioning. Her intimidation factor, her refusal to back down, her psychological dominance over opponents, these are strategic weapons, not character flaws.
Look at how tennis broadcaster Mary Carrillo described Sabalenka's game, big babe tennis personified. That's not just about her physical power, it's about her psychological presence. When you start apologizing for that presence, you're essentially disarming yourself.
Champions like Sabalenka succeed because they're psychologically uncomfortable for opponents to face. They're intense, demanding, uncompromising. When that player suddenly starts giving thumbs-ups and being overly gracious, it can actually confuse opponents initially, but it eventually backfires because you lose your edge.
The pattern is clear in her recent interviews. After Berlin, Sabalenka was making jokes about tennis scheduling, appearing relaxed and media-friendly. But this same player once said, "My dream is to inspire people, to be a fighter, and to be an example of not giving up. Fighting spirit and PR-friendly don't always align."
There's a difference between emotional maturity and emotional suppression. Sabalenka has clearly matured as a competitor. She fixed her serve issues, improved her mental toughness, won Grand Slams. But maturity doesn't mean becoming someone you're not. It means becoming the best version of who you already are.
Danger for Sabalenka is that public pressure might push her away from the very traits that made her successful. Her aggressive style isn't just about tennis technique, it's about psychological approach. When you start moderating your psychological approach, your technical execution often follows.
I've seen champions lose their edge trying to be more likable. The public wants personalities until those personalities become inconvenient. Sabalenka's intensity, her unwillingness to be fake, her authentic emotional responses, these made her compelling and successful. Neutering that helps no one.
Berlin incident revealed the internal war happening in Sabalenka's mind. Her natural reaction was anger and confrontation, exactly what you'd expect from someone who doesn't like being told what to do. But she overrode that instinct to project niceness. That override process is mentally exhausting.
When athletes constantly monitor and adjust their natural responses, it creates what psychologists call ego depletion, a state where mental resources are drained by self-control efforts. This directly impacts decision-making, reaction time, and performance under pressure. That's exactly what we saw against Masarova.
The most telling moment was when Sabalenka couldn't convert multiple match points against a player ranked 80-plus spots below her. That's not a technical failure, that's a psychological one. Champions close out matches they should win. When they can't, something fundamental is wrong with their mindset.
The irony is that Sabalenka's attempts to be more likable might make her less successful, which will ultimately make her less likable anyway. Champions are loved for winning, not for being nice. When you compromise the winning to chase the niceness, you often end up with neither.
The path forward for Sabalenka isn't about becoming nicer, it's about becoming more strategic with her intensity. She can maintain her competitive edge while choosing her battles more carefully. But abandoning her natural aggression entirely would be psychological self-sabotage.
Dr. Mitchell Marcus, thank you for this analysis. What we've seen in Berlin is a champion caught between authenticity and acceptability. Sabalenka's thumbs up to Masarova wasn't sportsmanship, it was performance anxiety. Her struggle against a qualifier wasn't rust, it was the psychological cost of trying to be someone she's not. This episode was brought to you by Unstruct AI, where we examine the psychology behind athletic performance. Today, we've explored how public pressure can force champions to abandon the very traits that made them successful. Sabalenka built her career on controlled aggression, emotional authenticity, and psychological intimidation. When she tries to suppress these natural instincts to appear more palatable, she's fighting against her own nervous system. Berlin incident revealed this internal conflict perfectly: initial anger, followed by forced pleasantness, natural reaction overridden by image management. The cost showed up immediately in her performance against Masarova, where a routine victory became a grinding struggle. Champions aren't built for public relations, they're built for competition. Sabalenka's own words reveal this truth. Calmness does not show mental toughness, and this is not who I am. When she tries to become the calm, no emotions player that others expect, she's essentially disarming herself psychologically. Danger isn't just immediate performance drops, it's long-term identity erosion that could undermine everything she's built. Question for Sabalenka isn't whether she can be nicer, it's whether she can stay authentic while managing external pressure. Her competitive edge isn't a character flaw to fix, it's a strategic advantage to harness. When champions start apologizing for their intensity, they often end up with nothing left to apologize with. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the most dangerous enemy of greatness isn't external competition, it's internal compromise. Stay authentic, even when the world demands otherwise.